Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's QCDR webinar, number 7, Making the Most of a QCDR. Today's topic will focus primarily on navigating the MIPS portal. We're coming close to the time of the year where people are registering their facilities to participate in the registries for MIPS reporting. And so we wanted to make sure that you have tangible information that you can take back and make the most of your experience. My name is Alicia Blakey. I'm administrator here in our Quality Management Programs Division. I'm joined also in the room by my colleagues, and then all of the attendees are in the WebEx today in listen-only mode, but we do want you to be engaged throughout today's talk. So if you could please submit any questions you have via the question feature, we can go ahead and get responses to you. And then today we'll try to leave enough time so that we can have a live Q&A session. So what we will cover today is an overview of the QCDR process. We actually will spend some time doing a live demo of the actual MIPS portal and some of its key features. And then we'll have key takeaways and how-to guides so that anyone who is joining us via WebEx today can share resources with your staff or your teams who are helping you with this QCDR process. And as I mentioned before, this is our 7th installment of our webinar series. So we do try to tailor each webinar to a specific topic, but we're happy to answer any questions you have outside of the MIPS portal. So today's topic is navigating the MIPS portal. So I think it would be interesting if we could get a sense of the audience, from the audience, who has actually used the MIPS portal for 2017. We've been a QCDR since 2014, so we understand that people may or may not be familiar with this option. So we're just asking if you or anyone in your group has used the portal, and your responses are yes, no, or I do not know. We'll allow a few seconds to tally the results. Okay. So actually 50, and this is interesting, this is why we do the poll results, and we know it's not accommodating everyone that will join today's WebEx because some people are still logging in, but 50% of the registry participants just today on today's webinar have not used the MIPS portal before. So I think today's content hopefully will be helpful to give you a big picture of how the whole QCDR process works, and then the MIPS portal is actually the central location where you submit your data and view your performance results across the various registries that we have. So we do want to make sure that we answer the questions for those who have not used the portal. And then if you are actively using the MIPS portal for 2017, there are some enhancements that we're going to look at today, and some other key features that will be enhanced before the end of the performance period. So everyone will be able to get a sense of or a quick nugget of what's new to come for 2017. So for any first-time participants that we have on today's registry call, these are all a list of all the registries that support our Qualified Clinical Data Registry. This is our National Radiology Data Registry umbrella. It houses 6 clinical databases, and all of the databases actually have clinical quality measures that could be used for MIPS reporting. So if you're participating in the MIPS portion of the registries, as well as any of the 6 data registries that we have, you have the ability to submit data to CMS. So this is just some groundkeeping or housekeeping just for anyone who's unfamiliar of the QCDR. We do allow clinicians and groups to have control over their MIPS data collection and reporting process. And then specifically the MIPS portal is what we're going to focus on today. It has 3 key benefits of collecting your data across the MIPS performance categories. So that's quality measures, improvement activities, and advancing care information if you are required to participate in that category. We also would like you to monitor your performance throughout the year using the MIPS portal. Essentially, clinicians and groups, and regardless of user role, has access to the MIPS portal. And your your performance data is aggregated at the 10 level as well as MPI level to help you identify any potential gaps or opportunities to increase your performance on those quality measures. And then the third essential function is that we will report all of your data to CMS if you, towards the end of the year. You've given us data throughout the year, and at the end of the reporting period, we'll have an opportunity for you to select your measures or improvement activities, and then we would submit that information to CMS on your behalf, but only after you have selected and attested to the accuracy of your data. And just as a reminder, registry vendors like the QCDR and other qualified registries, we are required to capture data on both Medicare and non-Medicare patients. So you want to keep this in mind when we're trying to satisfy data completeness thresholds. So here is a high level of some of the MIPS participation requirements. Because we do have 6 clinical data registries that can be used for MIPS reporting, not everyone in our registries is participating for the purposes of MIPS, but if you are, there are a few things that we need from you to make sure that we are messaging you properly and giving you the right information so that you have all you need for your CMS submission. So essentially, your facility or group must have a signed participation agreement, and you must have the MIPS registry selected on your NRDR account. And this is really important. If you do not have the MIPS registry on your account, we do not know that you want to use us for CMS purposes. For all accounts, whether master facility or child facilities, we do want you to have correct and updated information on your physicians as well as your tax ID information. Since this is for Medicare, the 10 number is a central part to how we actually aggregate your data across multiple facilities, so we do need that information. We want you to monitor your performance via feedback reports that are they're displayed to you on a quarterly basis through aggregate reports or a QCDR preview report, and then you also have a chance to view your MIPS portal to see real-time data to date. And then if you're still deciding to use the QCDR, we ask that you do so by October 31st. So coming up on the October 31st deadline, we've received a number of inquiries. People are just trying to find out more about the QCDR or trying to verify that their accounts are set up properly. So we do ask that you at least have that nailed down, at least your participation by October 31st. And then the next part of this line item is that some data must be submitted at this time. You can submit data to any of the 6 data registries, or you can submit your MIPS quality measures. If you start that process by October 31st, you'll be in a good position to have enough measures and enough performance data to select your information at the end of the reporting cycle. I've received some emails that the October 31st deadline was a little bit confusing. Some people thought they needed to have all of their data into our registry. That is not the case. You do not have a full year's worth of data, so actually that's not the data submission deadline, but that's for you to get started, especially for anyone who's deciding to select a performance period of 90 days as opposed to a full year. If you are a 90-day reporter, you had to start collecting your data starting October 2nd. So this October deadline is in line with those requirements. So I think it's important because we do have information on our website related to the QCDR timeline. This is a high-level timeline. If you would like a full snapshot of the full timeline, it is available in our QCDR participation checklist. But October 31st, we want you to at least have the MIPS registry as part of your account. We want to know that you are interested in using us for MIPS reporting, so that's very important. If you've already done that, you have already satisfied the first deadline. January 31st is actually when QCDR participants, anyone using our registries, we want you to have your data submitted to our registry finalized by January 31st of 2018 so that we may aggregate the results and give you real-time feedback so that you can select your best measures for CMS reporting. And then so that leads me to the next key nugget is that after the data submission deadline of January 31st, February and March becomes really crucial for when you should be accessing your MIPS portal on a regular basis. And at that time, you will have to select and attest to any measures or improvement activities you would like submitted to CMS. And then March 31st is the last day that the QCDR or any QCDR, any registry vendor can submit your data to CMS. So March 31st, we will not be submitting full data to CMS on that date. We would hope to start that process early March. And so and this is just an outline of the high-level QCDR process. It starts with you viewing our QCDR supported measures, whether they're MIPS measures or non-MIPS measures, and also identifying your improvement activities at that time, and then signing up for the appropriate registries you want to participate in. Steps 2 and 3 is that we do need to collect information on your physicians, especially their NPI numbers. If you have physicians that are leaving, changing, coming to your group, we ask that you update your account with that information on an ongoing basis. And then we also need a valid tax ID number for each of your facilities so that we can aggregate the data and analyze it and send it back to you with some meaningful feedback. One important area is that also when you're adding your physician group tax ID information, you will also have the opportunity to select whether or not you are a group reporter or not. If you have not selected GPRO, you can do it now, and then there will be functionality in the MIPS portal at a later time where you can select or change the status of your GPRO at a later time. Then steps 4 and 5, we want you to start submitting your measure data for the MIPS performance year. We do have just a snapshot on the quality measures. We have MIPS quality measures and non-MIPS quality measures that could be used to satisfy MIPS requirements, and each of those different categories requires different data submission options. So you want to be aware of that. And then we want you to monitor your performance data via your feedback reports or via the MIPS portal. So I've mentioned feedback reports and monitoring your data a few times, and so I just wanted to give you a snapshot of, I did mention as a QCDR, we are required to give you feedback at least quarterly. And so our most recent, this is our feedback report schedule, but you do have access to data even sooner than quarterly via either the MIPS portal or some of the registries have live reports that you can pull data on. But we do, on a quarterly basis, give you aggregate reports as well as a QCDR preview report so you can see which measures and your performance. And then we also have the MIPS portal. Our most recent data reports or feedback reports that have been, everyone should have their information, was for Q2. Next, we will be working towards Q3, which will include exams between the dates of July and September, and then the report may be issued in November or December of this year. So keep that in mind. If you were not submitting any data for between January and June, you may not have a meaningful feedback report. So so now that we've covered kind of the ground rules of a QCDR and what the requirements are in the timeline, now we can shift our focus to the MIPS participation portal. QCDR participants access a portal designed specifically to manage the MIPS participation process. So on this portal includes the location for where your MIPS measure files can be uploaded, review of any MIPS and non-MIPS quality measures, performance data in CMS benchmarks, and then selection of measures and required attestations prior to CMS submission. And then part of this portal is the physician and group level performance data is available for all physicians across multiple locations and tax ID numbers. And I just also want to just reiterate that all of the NRDR user roles, facility administrator, registry administrator, facility user, has access to the MIPS portal and should be navigating this with your login credentials. And so the top question is, how do I actually access the MIPS portal? You're going to log into NRDR with your login credentials. Once you are logged in, you select MIPS participation portal from the left-hand side menu, and then you will need to click on data collection and reports to open up the MIPS portal. So we're actually going to do a live demo. So that we can show some of the key features of the portal. As I mentioned, the MIPS portal is a standalone application within NRDR, and it is accessible from navigating MIPS participation portal. And then we're going to actually go ahead and log in. Give me a second, and let me make my screen bigger. So right now, for the purposes of this demo, we are using a testing site, so none of the data is live or representative of any data that's in our production system. And then I will be logging in as a facility administrator. I would say a facility administrator and registry administrator are the primary users of the MIPS portal, but we do want all other users to make use of this system. Clicking on MIPS portal participation, you'll see some key red text about important deadlines and what a qualified clinical data registry is and how we will support you for MIPS participation. So after logging in here, you're going to click on data collection and reports. And as a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and submit them via the question feature, but we'll go ahead and leave some time at the end to answer your questions. So this is essentially the home screen of a facility administrator. So on this MIPS portal, different tabs are displayed depending on your user role, but the following tabs are pretty much visible to all users. And just for the purposes of today's demo, I will focus on the home tab, the upload data, improvement activities, which is not available to registry users right now, but it will be available soon, and then our performance report tab. So the home page, essentially, you can see displays your facility's information. It gives you a welcome message to understand all of the key features and what's required to meet the MIPS requirements for the current year. And then we also link to the quality measures that are reportable through the QCDR. But this text up here, I see a lot of people overread this, but it does give you a highlight of why you're using the QCDR, obviously to avoid negative payment adjustments, and that we can support you in any of the performance categories. And then we get into some specifics on how many quality measures or how many improvement activities you need to do. So this is some key information that you want to be aware of. And then let me scroll down a little bit. If you are supporting multiple physicians or multiple groups and you have more than one text ID information, that information will be displayed on your home screen. And just by expanding the blue bar, you can see a list of all your physicians by text ID number, as well as if they are a G-Pro or not. So we do need this information. And then you'll see information on your physicians. And this is important because as a facility administrator, sometimes people ask me, how do I know if my physicians are registered, or how do I know if they're enrolled in MIPS properly? This home screen gives you that information. If you see next to any physician's information that they are not registered, we can share some tips with you on how to get them registered. So that's it for the home tab. There are some other tabs that we won't go into great details. The records enter tab, this tab essentially helps registry participants review MIPS quality measures data that has been uploaded to the website. And let me see. My position. Oh, sorry. And this tab is not a primary tab, but we'll go ahead and bring it up for purposes of today. But you can see any of the MIPS quality measure data, the kind of raw data of what has been included in the portal to date. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And then our next tab, the web service import. This information that's listed here is related to data submitted. Oh, sorry. So the raw data actually does appear. You can see, and now this information you can see by measure, and it's patient information at the exam level. So by measure, what CPT code, what numerator options, etc. And then and to just go back to the web service import, that just lists any data that was submitted via our web-based platform. It could have been by a certified partner or by a certified vendor or your billing company that use our web services. So this is the upload data tab is a key tab that you're going to need to actually create your MIPS data files, and then also upload any MIPS quality data to our registry. As I mentioned, we have two sets of measures that you can report on, MIPS quality measures and non-MIPS measures. Only the MIPS quality measures are submitted through this mechanism. If you have data that you need to collect for any non-MIPS measures, you want to do that through the registry that you're participating in. On this tab, we do have information on our data specifications files to tell you how to format a file properly, what's required and what's optional. And then we also have the templates where you can download the information. For the purposes of this demo, we've uploaded a few documents to just give you a sense of the file name. And in this grid right here is the status of how many records you've uploaded to our system, if any of them were rejected, or if any records were updated. And then you can see the status is very important, whether it's successful, processing, or rejected. If your files are rejected, there is a way for you to download the file. For this particular, for any time, regardless of errors or not, you can download a log file and it can show you an example of everything that's within that file. And I'm going to be very careful because it's right next to delete a data file. So this is an example of the proper format of a file that would be successful. You have your exam date and time. We do need that information. Your TIN, your NPI, patient's information, whether or not they're Medicare or not. And then we get into measure details of the measure number, any CPT codes that you bill, any diagnosis codes if they're available. Not every measure has diagnosis codes. And then your numerator response. This is a key field that is required, and it helps us to calculate your performance rate. So it helps us to know if performance was met or not met based on the codes that you provide. And then the last column is just the exam unique ID. So primarily we have resources on how to populate this file. I've gotten some feedback that people do actually want to see a sample of what a complete file looks like. So that's why we're walking through this today. And then one other important note about this tab on the data upload tab, as you upload your data to our system, it does take 24 hours for us to process your records. So when you're uploading your file, you may see pending for the first 24 hours, and then it will give you, after it's processed, it'll tell you if the file was successful or rejected. And then if your file is successful, make sure that you do not have any records that are rejected, because successful doesn't mean that every record was good. And then if you do have errors, you want to download the log file, and in the last column of the log file will give you an explanation next to these 15 records on why it was rejected. If for any reason you upload a data file and there is no downloadable file or download log file presented to you, it may be an incorrect file name, or there may be, maybe you have too many records and you exceed our file size limitations. So there's a number of reasons of why you wouldn't have a log file, but for the most part, if you follow this file specifications at the top of this screen, and it's also available on our website, you should have some success with uploading your files. And if you are a QCDR participant for multiple years, multiple consecutive years, your list of file names would be pretty long. You can always search by a specific date range to narrow your search results. And then for the purposes of today's demo, the next two tabs, Physician CMS Submission and G-Pro CMS Submission, we are not going to go through those tabs today because we are going to be modifying the format of these pages so that you can have more specific data on prior you would just see the measure count and you would tell us if you want to select it for CMS submission. Because for MIPS participation, you really do need to look at the performance of the measure. We're going to pull in your performance data. We're going to allow you to see your performance data compared to the CMS benchmarks or our registry level benchmarks. And we're also this will still be the place where you select your measures for CMS submission. And then also part of this new tab will be features to allow you to select your performance period, whether you're doing 90 days or a full year. If you are deciding to only give us data for a 90-day period, we do ask that it's limited to exams between October through December. So please do keep that in mind. So there'll be opportunity for you to not only select your measures, but have actual performance data within these tabs. And if you're a G-Pro, you would go to the G-Pro CMS submission tab. If you're a physician doing individual reporting, you could go there to select your measures for CMS submission. Lots of exciting enhancements coming along for those two performance tabs. So keep that in mind. And then also part of this tab will be to capture data completeness. The data completeness threshold is 50% of all exams applicable to a given measure. So we would also capture that, your data completeness threshold or your reporting rate within that tab. The next tab is what the long awaited, everyone has been waiting for, is the improvement activities tab. For the purposes of today's demo, and anyone who is trying to log into their own MIPS portal while I talk, this tab is not visible to you yet, but it will be available within the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, but more than enough time for you to select your improvement activities. So on this particular tab, you see the reporting year is 2017, and you can see that I have multiple tax ID numbers. And for all of my tax IDs, I have not selected any improvement activities. So it's giving me a message to let me know to select those activities. For the purposes of today's demo, you will be able to select activities for each individual clinician. But if you're a G-Pro, we're going to allow you to select multiple activities that can be applied to all of your physicians. So let me click on the G-Pro, and then I'm going to select improvement activities. The interface for this should look familiar to some, but maybe not all. If you have any way navigated our MIPS calculator, we've tried to pull in the functionality from that MIPS calculator to help you filter results for your improvement activities and be able to add them to your account. So at the top of this particular tab, we talk about the requirements, if you're patient-facing or not. It does determine how many improvement activities you need to satisfy this category with. A majority of our radiologists are considered non-patient-facing clinicians or maybe in a small rural area, so you will only have to report 1 high-weighted activity or 2 medium-weighted activities. At the top of this page, it shows me that I've selected 1 tax ID number, even though I have several that are part of my account. And then for this particular tax ID number, I can see all of the physicians by their NPI, how many have been selected for this 10. So I have 20 physicians for this group. And by default, we check all of the physicians because we want to be efficient and we want to apply the improvement activities. You can get credit if one of your physicians completes the activity, the entire group gets credit. So we want to be efficient and make sure we apply our activities to the full group. And here we'll give you a snapshot of the 10s, and then these are the NPI numbers of all of the physicians within my 10. Similar to the calculator, we need to show a list of all of the improvement activities. Currently, there are 92 improvement activities, but we do realize that that's a lot of information to toggle through. So for the purposes of today's demo, this is in the way. I'm actually going to filter my results. For purposes of today, I am a non-patient facing clinician group. I am doing G-Pro, and so I want to select medium weighted activities just for purposes of today's demo. So I've filtered my results. There were 92. There are 78, out of the 92, there are 78 activities that are considered high weighted activities. Remember, if you're a non-patient facing group, all you have to do is select one improvement activity. And what you're doing when I say select, you're essentially attesting that you've completed this activity for at least 90 days. So I want to add the first two improvement activities, leveraging the QCDR for standardized processes, and then also using the QCDR to promote use of patient-reported outcomes. If I am confused by the title, I can always click Read More, and we give you information, a description of the actual activity. Validation is what sort of documents. CMS does not, or the ACR does not need your actual documentation that you did this improvement activity, but it's always good to have it in case you're audited at a later time. And then we also have any CMS suggested documentations. We give you an explanation of what's acceptable by CMS. And then ACR suggested activities. If ACR took the liberty of that list of 92 is very long, and we've identified some activities that are specific to radiologists. So you would be able to see those ACR related activities. Now, for improvement activities, it's important that for improvement activities to satisfy this category, you're saying that your group did this improvement activity for at least 90 days. So our 90-day period would be October 2nd. So I'm going to go over and for the calculator, we need to have a start and end date for all of your improvement activities, whether you're an individual reporter or a group reporter. So I'm going to say that I started this activity October 1. And then I'm going to end it in December. And the start and end date is required in order for us to add any activities. So after adding that information, I'm going to add the activity. You will see here, we summarize your selected activities. And then I want to collapse this information. To read more information, I want to collapse so that I can pick my second activity. Now, technically, I'm sorry, I'll have it filtered by medium weighted activities. So I'm going to need to select 2 medium weighted activities. So apologies, before I said I needed 1 high weighted activity or 2 medium weighted activities. So I'll just do the same, I'll select a different, I started this activity, actually no, let me not do that, it may break. Still October 1, going through 12/31. And again, if I need to read more, you can always do that for all of the activities. This functionality is similar to the calculator, so we hope that you all do like it. And if you look in your portal today, it will not be there, but it will be there within a few weeks. We are working hard to get that done. So this is a summary of what I've done, but before I leave the page, I never want to just close out a page. I want to be sure to save my information before going to a next page. So I've selected activities and they have been successfully saved. Now I want to click to view a summary of it. So under the improvement tab, now you see the red message has gone away because I have in fact actually selected some improvement activities. I've done so for the 10 that is a G-Pro. So now when I expand it, it shows me a summary for each position, for each MPI. These 2 improvement activities have been assigned and will be available for them to report for MIPS at the end of the year. Again, you're not uploading any data here. You're giving us a start and end date of how long so that we can validate if you have the 90-day period satisfied, and then we can report this to CMS for you. We hope that you like this new feature. This tab will be available shortly. And then lastly, I have a few minutes to look at the performance report tab before we switch to question and answer. So I would say the upload data tab and the performance tab go hand in hand. As you upload data to our MIPS portal, it will automatically populate information in your performance tab. So do be mindful to use both of those tabs interchangeably. At the top of this page, we do list out the 2017 CMS quality benchmarks. The benchmarks are going to help you look at your performance and potentially have a snapshot, and it's not definite, of how many points you would receive for each of your quality measures. So each quality measure can earn anywhere to 3 to 10 points, and it's based on the benchmarks that CMS established. So we give you an overview of how the benchmarks are assigned in the deciles and points, and then we give you an Excel file of all of the results. For the purposes of today, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. You can always download that information, and it is publicly available on the CMS website. And then if you do download that file and you see any of your quality measures that do not have any benchmarks established, the most points that you can earn if you report that quality measure will be 3 points, regardless of performance. So if benchmarks are not established, just keep in mind that the most points that you can earn is 3 points. So on the performance tab, as I mentioned during the lecture, that most of our results are aggregated at the 10 level, and all of your MPIs that bill for that 10 will be displayed. And then you can always search for individual clinicians' performance also if you need to. One new feature that's available for this year is that the performance reports tab can be exported to Excel. So you do want to keep that in mind, that as you're sharing your results with your physician champions or with your clinical teams, be sure to export these results so that you can have something tangible for them to look at if they're unable to log into the portal for any particular reason. So I'm going to expand this first tab, the first tab, because I am a G-Pro, and it's going to show me all of the quality measures to date that I've submitted through the portal, and also if I have any measures that are attributed to my physicians from any of the 6 clinical data registries. So if you're in the dose index registry, or if you're in a national mammography database registry, all of those results would appear here. I will give a disclaimer that for Q2 results, all of the AC-RAD or non-MIPS quality measures are updated in your portal, so please do take a chance to look at that. The only exception is that for the dose index registry, because we have 3 new clinical quality measures that have to be calculated a little bit differently, those results will be displayed at a later time. But do keep in mind, so if you're looking for dose index registry measures, AC-RAD 31, 32, and 33, those results will not appear right now, but they are coming. So for the performance report tab, I know a lot of sites that I talk to, they do their own analysis on their own time with your billing company or with your vendor or with your billing or coding staff, but the portal does have the ability to do the analysis based on data that you submit. With that being said, if you do not submit or upload any MIPS data files or submit any data to any of the 6 registries, your performance report will be completely blank. Some key information that you have is information at the group level. You can see all of your counts, and then also each individual position that's contributing to your group's final count. If you have questions about any of these tabs, as you hover over, you can see an explanation of what a performance denominator is, what a performance numerator is. The key features here on this performance report is actually the performance rate and then also your reporting rate. Your reporting rate is similar to your data completeness threshold. The goal is 50%. So anything above 50% is definitely meeting data completeness. And then for this measure, I wanted to pull out measure 76 because for this particular measure, and the reason why we even want to use a performance report is to obviously identify gaps and make sure there are no errors in codes. And then also we want to monitor the performance. The higher your performance, the more likely you are to be close to the CMS benchmark, and then you can assign, and then you'll be assigned points for your MIPS final score. The MIPS final score is what determines your payment adjustment. This is 2017 reporting, so it's going to affect your 2019 payments. But for measure 76, this is not an inverse measure. This is commonly reported by an interventional radiologist. You can see the number of exams, you can see the numerator and denominator, and then we will calculate a performance rate for you. Now, this performance rate is important because this is not an inverse measure, which means the performance rate target is 100% for this quality measure. This particular group, and this is all fictitious, this particular group is only less than 13% out of 100. So we will want to, if I was the facility administrator for this site, I would want to see why, what is happening, what's going on, is something missing in the report, et cetera. So you want to be able to monitor your performance rates by using this portal, and we do calculate them based on the data that you give to our system. And all the MIPS quality measures are indicated by a number. So those will appear first in your section. You can see we have information on the fluoro time measure. My performance rate is 98.7%. Most importantly is the performance rate, but you want to make sure did your group really only read for 230 exams. You want to make sure you monitor your exam counts and your performance rate. But that's a really good performance rate for that measure. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit further because I want to show you that we do display, in addition to the MIPS quality measures, we do display the non-MIPS measures, so anything with the AC-RAD 5. So for AC-RAD 5, anything that has the AC-RAD in front of it is a non-MIPS measure. This particular measure is attributed or assigned to this group because they participate in the National Mammography Database. Very important, also looking at performance rates. This particular measure is recall rate, so this is considered an inverse measure, and so a lower performance rate indicates better clinical quality. So 12.99% is actually pretty good. If we saw anything close to 100%, it would be problematic and we would need to find out why. But for this particular measure, anything that's close to 0% and away from 100% is ideal. For this particular measure, we have not calculated a reporting rate because that would happen later on once you verify that your exam counts are accurate. And then the last column would be for you to select for CMS submission. We won't allow you to actually select yes or no here. We will want you to do that under the G-Pro or Physician CMS submission tabs. But just so that you know, none of these measures have been selected for CMS submission. And hopefully everybody understands the language around numerators and denominators. Denominator is the patient population. Your numerator is the clinical action, or how many times you coded the CPT-1 or CPT-2 codes as a numerator response. And then I think that's it. I mean, I'm just displaying a few more AC-RAD measures. So AC-RAD 21 comes from the Lung Cancer Screening Registry, and AC-RAD 15 comes from the GRID registry, which focuses on report turnaround time measures. Just a note on continuous measures, they do not have an actual performance rate. We look at actual mean turnaround times for radiography. So these values are in times, and the unit is actually hours. So you can get a sense that for the continuous measures, it's not a proportion, so we won't have an actual percentage rate, but it will more likely be the mean of your performance scores. Still looking at numerator and denominator information. We have about 10 minutes for questions and answers, but I hope this is at least helpful, especially for the 50% that never actually navigated your MIPS portal. Hopefully you know how to access it and you understand the multiple tabs that are there. And then, as I mentioned, the improvement activities will be released soon, and then closer to November, December, we will be relaunching the CMS submission tabs. There's some huge enhancements that are coming your way for those particular tabs. As the MIPS program changed from PQRS, we got to continuously enhance our product, and we hope that anyone who's joined us since 2014 sees some improvement in the MIPS portal.
So I've got a question. I was talking to Wendy Lomers in the question box here, but since if you can pull back up.
Oh, pull back up, sure.
She was asking if we have some kind of indication when a measure is an inverse measure when we're looking at this screen here.
For this, on your screen, you will have located at the bottom here, will say inverse, and I think it's also start with an asterisk. Because we're in the UAT or the testing environment, the inverse measure is not visible to you, but it is in production.
Great, thanks. We've got another question here this is from Gretchen. She's asking when the grid measures are going to show up in the portal.
They should, hi Gretchen, all Q2 data for all of the registries should be visible in your portal except for the dose index registry. If you do have measures that are missing or not there, we may need to look at how your account is set up to make sure your 10 is not missing, or your physicians, make sure your feedback report has meaningful data. Sometimes if any of the data elements are missing, it will not appear in your portal. So we could take that on offline. Gretchen, you're familiar with our NRDR support process. If you can go ahead and send us a message, we'll look into that for you.
Okay. That's all the questions for now, but if anybody has them, you can just type them into the question box, or you can click the hand raise icon and we can unmute you. We actually do have a hand raised from a couple people here. It looks like the first person with the hand raised is, let's see, they might not have questions anymore, but I'll check with Carol Doherty first. Carol, if you've still got a question, I'm going to unmute you really quick. Actually, it looks like you don't have audio capabilities right now, so I'm not going to unmute you. We've also got a hand raised from Courtney Carroll. Courtney, do you still have a question? If so, I'm going to unmute you. Are you there, Courtney? Okay, I guess not. Sorry. All right, we do have some more written questions coming in now. First one. So this question is from Sean. Sean's asking, you had mentioned that those submitting 90 days should choose October 1st through December 31st. Is there a reason we couldn't possibly select Q3 or another time period instead?
The CMS requirement was to submit a 90-day period, and what hasn't been clearly communicated by CMS is that each of the measures that you submit need to be in the same 90-day period. So that complicates the 90-day period that you might be evaluated again. If you submitted one measure, you submitted some data for it at the beginning of the year, and then other measures towards the end of the year, CMS will start counting the 90-day period for the first measure that you submitted. So that potentially could cause a good bit of problems for groups that don't understand that technicality. And because of the most of our participants are beginning to get up and running at the end of the year, we're limiting the quality measure data submission for a 90-day period to that last quarter of the year. It also addresses some of the issues that CMS has with selective reporting, and that's another reason to pick the same period for each group that's submitting.
Thank you. Thank you for tackling that one. That's a common question, and we just had to limit it to Q4. And then if you have MIPS and non-MIPS quality measures, all of them have to have the same performance period. So keep that in mind.
Quick question here from Donna Mosser. She's asking, where would I find the pricing for the NRDR participation fees? The website refers to 2015 pricing. But if you're pulling it from the website, that should be the most up-to-date pricing.
Is it from MIPS reporting?
It looks like NRDR participation fees. So
thanks for pointing that out.
We'll make sure it says 2017. Thank you. Courtney was having phone problems, but she was able to type in her question. She was asking about the advancing care information and wondering whether that can be submitted through QCDR. So I replied that it's in the works right now. We're still developing that, but it will be possible to submit through QCDR.
Yes, if you need to do the ACI, we will have functionality. It'll be a new tab similar to improvement activities. It'll say advancing care information, and then we'll have the measures there for the base score and the performance score. And then some of the measures do require like a yes or no statement, and some of them require numerator denominator. So we're working on functionality for that. And then similar to improvement activities, we'll have a 90-day performance period requirement, so it's not the full year.
We've got one here from Julie Williams. Julie's asking, I was under the impression that in order to participate in ACR's QCDR, you had to also participate in at least one NRDR registry. From today's webinar, it sounds like that may not be the case. So can you use ACR's QCDR without participating in a registry? And yes, you can. You can use us to just submit MIPS measures. That is totally an option.
That is an option, but there may be a better choice for doing just that. I mean, the main reason for having the NRDR be identified as a QCDR is to allow use of the registry measures, the non-MIPS measures, and we recognize that that may take time to get up and running, but the use of NRDR for just the MIPS measures may be more of an effort than you want to put into when you could use a qualified registry, such as the MIPS Wizard product. That might be something that you want to look at, but is perfectly acceptable to just submit the MIPS measures through the QCDR.
Okay, and just a quick clarification for Kimberly. We had a question. Do we use the NRDR to submit all MIPS data, quality, improvement activities, et cetera? And that is yes. You can do all of that through QCDR.
You can do that. That's right. That's a choice you have. But you can also use the CMS portal for that or another mechanism. You can use another mechanism for the separate categories.
Okay, we've got a question here from Dorothea. She's asking, is one complete grid record submission considered some data for the October 31st deadline?
Yeah. Short answer is yes, but I think your site has more data than you have. The MIPS quality measures I've seen in your portal, and you may even have DIR. You have other measures. So the sum data requirement is across any of the data registries. You need to submit something, whether it be MIPS or the non-MIPS measures. So you've met that October 31st deadline. And we know your group is large, so we'll work with you.
And the point of that deadline is to, as Alicia said earlier, to ensure that you've got those processes working. I mean, if you're pulling data from multiple facilities and have to work with different hospitals and their staff, you should just get a good sense that you've got that process in the works. What we're trying to prevent is having multiple groups and sites trying to get their process going and get data to us at the end of the year. It's just, it causes backloads of data. There's the aggregation of the data that you haven't seen until later in the year. So that is why we strongly encourage and use a deadline of October 31st to get those flows of data in process.
And I think we only have about, we have about 10 seconds left. Just a reminder that the staff here, we are working to make sure we document how-to guides and give you some tips and tricks to use the QCDR or any component of the registries. Any registry, we have a number of articles that are available at the NRDR Help Desk homepage. I've pulled out a few that are related to MIPS, the MIPS portal, since that's today's focus, and submitting your MIPS quality data. But there are also things in there about participation agreements, fees, data requirements, and so do make use of that information. And then we have a number of websites, too many to name, so everyone on today's call will have the presentation slides, but we do have a number of resources available electronically. And then we hope that everyone on today's call will join us for our next series in the process. So we'll be looking at understanding your QCDR feedback reports. That'll be our November session. And then we're playing around with the idea of if we should do sort of office hours based on some of the top tickets that we get. So if you do have any feedback or suggestions for future topics for webinars, or if you find that the office hours would be helpful, where you can get your whole team and the ACR staff at one time, let us know, because there are several scenarios that can prevent or enhance the QCDR process, so we want to make sure we provide that resource in addition to the monthly webinars. And then at any time you can contact us via email or phone, the hotline, or we prefer that you actually submit a ticket to the web-based portal, because there you can get the helpful how-to guides, and then you can submit your ticket, and then we'll have a way to track versus email. I think that's it. Thank you for sticking it out with us on a Thursday afternoon. We know that this webinar will not answer all of your questions, but we hope it did provide some additional guidance to ease your woes with using this process. Again, thanks.